Sometimes I worry about showing clients this house because it's a personal building. We practice, I guess you could call it raw architecture. So architecture that's not finish focused, but it's not decorative in any way. We feel that architecture should arrive without decoration. And this building is very apparent in that regard. But everyone that we've shown, as long as they're here long enough with some explanation, eventually finds something or some things that really make sense and bring their awareness into a different avenue than what they're used to. I did live with my family on the other side, on the Pittwater side, which is a very different place. And I was left with a sort of confusion of what do I do with the old family house? And I elected to change, but the change was going to be somewhere like the South Coast and something radical. And I came over here with my son one day and he was surfing Little Avalon just here, and I turned around, this block was for sale. And I thought, that's a pretty serious change. We bought the land with what we got for the house. We couldn't afford a house here. And it was Fernanda, in her wisdom and also ability to see a way through, that said, well, rather than renting, why don't we just put a tent up? And we put up a tent in the backyard, and 3 of us lived here full time for 5 years.
It was a very nice experience. It enabled us to get more and more familiar with the site and the place as we occupied. It was challenging at times, not too much to do with the rain or the cold, easily manageable, the wind, because we are, as on the top of the headland, we get a lot of turbulent air and it gets really big winds here, and the tent would flap a lot and would keep us awake at night. But apart from that, everything else was very easily manageable. It was a great experience of how to learn to live with very little.
It re-informed us about fire. It re-informed us about weather patterns. It allowed us to understand how little you can operate with, as Fernanda said. So regularly, Fernanda will go around the house and say, we don't need this, this and this, and it's almost out the door before I rescue it, usually on a sentimental basis, not on a practical basis. But it was a very healthy experience, and I must say, when we started it, I didn't think it was going to be.
I think the idea was the house to be very unpretentious from the outside, for being a very public site, and I think as soon as you walk in you don't expect, so it's just a concrete bunker from the outside and it just sits there, and then you walk in through this sliding canvas door, and then to the sides there's the entry door with a tiny little slit of glass, so the person that's coming to open the door can see who is outside. Downstairs is mostly the living area, kitchen, living, and then there's our bedroom. Or there is a intermediate room, which we call it the Indian head room, which is the double height room, where you have the first feel of the house. The intermediate level is more like a community room, that it can be intimate if need be, but it can also be more open and used in different ways. It's a more versatile floor space. And then one level up is one bedroom, which is a more secluded bedroom. And then you keep going up again. It's just the roof terrace, which reveals itself by opening a hatch, like a sort of a boat.
It takes you back to your origins, really. If you go camping or whatever, and you sit around a fire, there's an amazing silence that comes upon you. if you're willing to own it. Fire is sort of that connection back to tribal thinking or tribal behaviour, which is elemental in our lives and which we tend to be losing. In this particular fire, you'll notice there's no chimney, but there is big sliding panels. The roof opens. So we open the roof and you open these doors here a little bit and you get the right ventilation to sustain a fire burning properly. But also we can open our room onto the fire. We can open the living room onto the fire. We can open the terrace onto the fire. So the fire is actually servicing most of the house, visually and emotionally and spiritually. It's a very important element. And the rawness of this courtyard is also important. If this was a tailored, manufactured courtyard, it wouldn't have nearly the impact, emotional, spiritual impact, as this courtyard is in its informal sense. We did like 450 drawings for this building, Did you notice that the stairs wobble when you come down? Did you notice that every panel is the same as the ceiling panels? Did you notice there's drop panels in the ceiling? And the drop panels reflect how a cave would weather from the opening. The shadows of the trees on the canvas. There were all sorts of components to this building which were beyond the process of building. It was much more storytelling. It's like reading a good book. You read it and you get the gist of the book. You're not going to get everything. Hopefully when you come here you get the gist, and people will pick up on different things, depending on whether someone's talking to them or whether they're looking and trying to find. And there are the lookers and finders, and there are the people who generalise as well. So there are a lot of things that'll be missed, but that's also a good house. That, you come back and you find new things, and you come back and you find more things. And you come back and you go, wow, this is endless. And it should be endless because it had endless thinking that went into it. 450 detailed drawings is a lot of drawings. So there's at least 450 things here to find. It's a bit like those little drawings, where they say find the mistake or something, and there's 7. It's got 450.